Let's talk about losing weight on a 14-10 intermittent fasting regimen. The great thing about a 14-10 is that it fits well in most people's lives. You know, a 14-10 just means that you are fasting for 14 hours and then you eat during a 10-hour eating window. So for example, you might eat between the hours of 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. each day. That means that you're eating for a 10-hour window and then the rest of the time you're just not eating. And this is pretty convenient because it really means that you could have just, breakfast, lunch, and dinner at normal times, and it doesn't really interrupt your normal life too much. But this long eating window can also be its biggest disadvantage because it gives you more opportunity to overeat or just to eat too much in that window, which will cause weight gain. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips on how to lose weight successfully with a 14-10. Now, I really like the 14-10. In fact, for a long time in like 2015, when I was really just learning how to do intermittent fasting and I was experimenting with it, a 14-10 was the maximum I thought I should do as a woman. I read this article that said, women shouldn't fast for longer than 14 hours at a time. And so I kind of thought, well, I don't want to mess up my hormones or anything. So I didn't do anything longer than a 14-hour fast in the beginning. But what I found was I really like longer fasts. And so I ended up going all the way to doing basically 24-hour fast, or OMAD, which is just 1 meal a day. But I was able to lose weight with a 14-10. And I think it's a great way to practice intermittent fasting simply because of how easy it is to do and how it's just not weird. So the first tip I have is to really pay attention to how much food you're eating in your eating window. A lot of people have this mistaken idea that all you have to do with intermittent fasting is just pick a window and then you just get to eat as much as you want in your eating window. You can just eat nonstop and you should still lose weight. Calories count no matter what. And the way intermittent fasting works is that it just makes it easier to eat the appropriate amount of calories so that you can lose weight. And the way it does that is by restricting the amount of time that you can eat. But you can certainly gain weight even if you're doing a 14-10 absolutely perfectly. The main thing to remember is that you just need to cut down on the quantity of food. I eat whatever I want. I don't try to do low carb or anything like that. And so if you find that, you're doing the 14-10 and you're just not losing any weight, then look at, perhaps getting rid of snacks during that time. So just do meals during the day, or, just look at eating a little bit less at those meals. Tip number 2 is to look carefully at where you place your windows and to try, if you can, to cut off your eating earlier in the day as opposed to later. So in other words, maybe something like eating from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 9 to 7 would be better usually than putting your eating later in the day. Generally, your willpower kind of diminishes over the course of the day. And so if you're pushing your eating later like that, it's going to be a lot easier to just eat too much, just to kind of emotionally eat and that kind of thing later in the day. So you can really set yourself up for success if you cut your eating off earlier. That being said, if you find that you like to eat later on in the day, you prefer to, push your first food out, that's fine. Like, don't worry about doing it absolutely perfectly. It's just, whatever gives you results. Tip number 3 is to keep yourself busy during the eating window. So having that longer eating window really does open up a lot of opportunities for, eating just out of boredom, out of stress, things like that. So one thing you can do, and I found this really helpful, especially in the beginning, was to keep a running list of things that I needed to accomplish or that I just wanted to accomplish, tasks I needed to do just around the house or things related to work. I kept a list of hobbies that I wanted to get back into, things like drawing and writing. Keep a list of books that you want to read and have books lying around that you want to pick up and read. All those things you can do and it will keep you busy and keep your mind off of food. And also if you want to do some form of exercise, it's a great time to do it during your eating window. It takes up some of that time that might otherwise be tempting to kind of just fill it up with food. Tip number 4 is to really focus on the lessons that your fasting window is teaching you and then applying those to the eating window. The great thing about intermittent fasting is that there is a chunk of time each day where you're just not allowed to eat. And this can really show you some bad habits that you might have. Like for me, what I saw when I was learning how to fast was that there were many times where I would just eat just because I was bored, just because I was upset, and I would just mindlessly eat. And so when I had to break myself of those habits because I was in the fasting window, then I started to see, even in my eating window, okay, even though I'm maybe kind of feeling a little hungry right now, that's probably not real hunger. Like I'm not truly hungry. I'm just bored or I'm just stressed. And so learning those things and then applying it is really helpful. And it'll make it so that you are eating the right amount in your eating window, which will lead to weight loss. Tip number 5 is to set reasonable expectations for yourself when you're losing weight with a 14-10. Now, weight loss in general is a lot slower than most of us want it to be. For me, I found I lost about a pound a week. And I found that was true with a 14-10, 16-8, or just even eating OMAD, 1 meal a day. And so when you're practicing a 14-10, you might find that, the weight loss is a little bit slower, especially if you don't have as much weight to lose as I did. In that case, you might be looking at fractions of a pound a week, and that's still great. That's still progress. The point is, as long as you're seeing your scale trend downward, you're eventually going to hit your goals. And the work that you're doing on a 14-10, a lot of times it's going to be harder work. It's going to be a longer time until you see those results, because working on things like just portion control and eating the right amount, being really disciplined with your eating, it takes a while, in my experience at least, to get to that point. But this is really important work. I mean, I think on one hand, it's a lot more important to learn how to just eat the right amount, as opposed to just saying, hey, well, I only eat 1 meal a day. So, I don't have to worry about portions as much when I do that. But, working on something like a 14-10 really does make you disciplined with your eating. So even though it's maybe a slower victory, it's going to be really well worth it in the end. And if you find that you really just can't seem to lose weight with a 14-10, you've tried it for several months and it's just not working, you can certainly try pushing your windows out a little bit further. Maybe try something like a 16-8, which a lot of people have success with. The main thing is to just make sure it fits in your life and it's something that you can stick with for the long haul. And if you'd like more information about intermittent fasting, be sure to check out my book, The Laid Back Guide to Intermittent Fasting, which shows you how I practice intermittent fasting in a very laid back way. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.